All right, today we're going to tackle the key principles of pest control. But look, this isn't about memorizing some boring checklist. This is about completely rewiring your brain, shifting from that knee-jerk reaction to a truly professional strategy. Let's dive in. So, picture this. You're out on a job, and you spot something wrong. Some weird spots on a leaf, maybe a few bugs you don't recognize. What's your immediate instinct? What is the very first thing you do? Seriously. Think about it for a second, because your answer pretty much reveals everything about your whole approach. For a lot of folks, the reaction is simple. Just grab the sprayer and blast it. But that's the quick fix, not the right one. The professional's first move. It isn't an action at all. It's a process. It's to stop and think. And that single difference, that little pause, is what separates a temporary patch from a real long-term solution. And that's exactly what we're breaking down today.
Okay, so first things first. You cannot solve a problem that you don't actually understand. So the absolute #1 foundational rule of pro-level pest management is correct identification. You've got to think like a plant doctor. You have to diagnose the patient before you even think about writing a prescription.
And this right here shows the huge distinction you have to make. Is the thing you're looking at really the problem, or could it actually be part of the solution? Yeah, a pest causes harm, we get that. But a beneficial organism, like a ladybug just feasting on aphids, that's your ally. That's free pest control. If you just go in there, guns blazing, and spray everything, you might be wiping out the very thing that's trying to help you out.
And believe me, the stakes are incredibly high here. This isn't just some academic thing. If you see some yellowing leaves and just assume, oh, it's a fungus, you're going to go spray a fungicide. But what if the real problem is just a simple nitrogen deficiency? Well, that fungicide is going to do absolutely nothing. You've wasted time, you've wasted money, and worse, the plant is still suffering. Getting the diagnosis right is everything. And here's another layer to that professional thought process. Even if you do correctly identify a pest, do you actually need to do something right now? This idea, intervention thresholds, it forces you to ask, is the problem actually big enough to justify the cost and the impact of a treatment? Seeing one single aphid doesn't mean you need to nuke an entire field. A real pro knows when to act, but just as important, they know when to just watch and wait. So that brings us to our second big principle. Once you've figured out the problem and you've decided, okay, I need to do something, what's next? Well, the key is knowing you have a whole toolkit of strategies, not just a single hammer. It's all about picking the right tool for that specific job. And here are the main players in that toolkit. Of course, you've got your chemical controls, that's usually what people think of first, but then there's biological control, which is basically using nature's own predators to do the hard work for you. You've also got cultural methods, things like better sanitation or rotating your crops to break pest cycles, and all of this, it falls under one big, smart strategy called integrated pest management, or IPM. And here's the really crucial point. You have to understand the trade-offs. A chemical strategy, sure, it might give you a really fast result, a quick knockdown, but it also comes with a much higher potential risk to the environment. IPM, on the other hand, is designed from the ground up for long-term, sustainable control with minimal risk. The whole idea behind IPM is to start with the least harmful, effective strategy first. You only escalate if you absolutely have to. Okay, so you've identified the problem, you've chosen your strategy. Now it is time to act. This next principle is all about execution. It's about using your tools the right way while following all the rules and safety protocols. And this is where the practical meets the legal. And trust me, it is absolutely non-negotiable. So before you even think about putting a single drop of product into a sprayer, you have to treat that thing like a piece of precision machinery. Are there any leaks? Are the nozzles clean and the right type for what you're doing? And the big one, is it calibrated? Applying too much can damage the plant. Applying too little won't solve the problem. Getting that rate exactly right is fundamental.
And let's be crystal clear on this. We are not just talking about best practices here. When you use a sprayer, you are handling and applying hazardous substances. It is an absolute legal and operational requirement to get it right. There is zero room for error.
These aren't just vague warnings. The regulations are super specific. A lot of the chemicals used in this line of work fall under what are called Schedules 5, 6, and 7 of the National Poison Standard. And all that means is that there are strict, legally binding rules for how you handle them, how you store them, and how you get rid of them. Knowing these rules, it's not optional. It's your job.
And really, this is the bottom line. If you get it wrong, it is a legal breach. That means big fines, it means legal action. And I want you to notice the wording here. It carries personal and employer liability. That responsibility lands squarely on your shoulders as the applicator, just as much as it does on your company.
All right, let's get to our fourth principle. And honestly, this is the one that so many people forget. The job is not done when you put the sprayer back in the truck. A true professional knows that the application itself is just one small step in a much bigger, ongoing process of management. It's all about the monitoring cycle. This is what turns a one-off action into a real program. You have to go back and check, did it work? Did it have any unintended consequences, any off-target effects? Then, based on what you see, you adjust your plan for the future. And, so critically, you document everything. And that documentation, it's not just a good idea for your own notes. It's a mandatory legal requirement. You have to have a record of what you applied, where you applied it, and the rate you used. Think of it this way. These records are your proof of compliance, but they're also the data you need to figure out what's working over the long haul.
So, let's bring this all together now. What we've just walked through isn't just a series of steps. It's a complete shift in how you think. It's the journey from being a reactive amateur to becoming a strategic professional.
Here it is boiled down to its core. First, you diagnose. You identify correctly. Then, you plan. You strategize effectively using your whole toolkit. Next, you execute. You apply your solutions safely and legally. And finally, you follow through. You monitor the results and you adapt your plan. That, right there, is the professional process.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to really think about. After hearing all this, what is the one common mistake, maybe one you've even made yourself, that you will now, for sure, avoid on the job? Because adopting this professional mindset, it all starts with changing just one single habit.